Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, Neighbor Continues to Smoke, Which Pollutes My Apartment, so I retaliate with noise pollution. I live in an apartment complex. Neighbor below me continues to smoke, which then blows into my apartment. I can't stand the smell. They've been asked to stop and a complaint lodged with Strata. They live on the bottom floor, so their courtyard extends out a few meters past my balcony, and this is where they sit and smoke. So now, I use a Bluetooth speaker angled down at their courtyard and I play children's highly repetitive songs, The Wiggles, whenever they're out there smoking. I have to shut all the windows since they're smoking, so I can't hear it, so it doesn't bother me, but they don't seem to enjoy it all that much.
The next story is titled HOA called the police on me for having a wheelchair-accessible RV in my driveway and towed it away. I sued them for $265,000. I'm here to tell you about the difficult experience my family went through when we moved into a new neighborhood. My husband is a veteran and was injured while serving in Afghanistan, leaving him wheelchair-bound. To make life easier for him and our family, we purchased an RV with wheelchair access. We parked it in our driveway, and that's when the trouble started. Our homeowner association, HOA, began sending us fines for public obstruction. We tried explaining the situation, but they wouldn't listen. They claimed that the RV was too big for our driveway, even though we had done our due diligence and made sure it would fit before we made the purchase. One day, the police showed up at our door, claiming they received an anonymous tip about strange noises coming from our RV. They searched the RV and found nothing, but it was clear that our HOA was behind this. We felt harassed and targeted, and we didn't know what to do. The harassment continued, and it took a toll on our family. We felt like we didn't belong in this neighborhood, and we were constantly on edge. One day, we decided to take a road trip with our RV to clear our minds. When we returned home, we found our front yard in flames. The fire had spread from a neighbor's yard, destroying our fence and our spare pickup truck. We were devastated, but we didn't know who was responsible for the fire. The next morning, we woke up to find our RV was missing. We suspected that our HOA had something to do with it, especially since we received no notice or warning about it being towed away. We were furious and went straight to our HOA president's house to confront him. He denied knowing anything about it, but we weren't convinced. We called the police to report the RV stolen, and the investigation led us straight to the impound lot where our RV was being held. The HOA president was caught red-handed, and he and the HOA were ordered to pay $265,000 in damages. It was a small victory for our family, but it was a win nonetheless. We were finally able to get the justice we deserved. However, our victory was short-lived. A few months later, we received a letter from our mortgage lender stating that they were going to foreclose on our home. We were shocked and didn't know what to do. It turned out that our HOA had placed a lien on our property for the $265,000 in damages they were ordered to pay us. We couldn't believe it. We thought we had won, but now we were about to lose everything. We decided to fight back and hired a lawyer to represent us. We spent countless hours in court and the stress was overwhelming. But we refused to give up. After months of legal battles, we finally won our case. The HOA was ordered to remove the lien on our property and our home was safe. As an update, we have since moved out of that neighborhood and into a new community that is much more welcoming and accepting of our needs. It was a difficult experience, but we learned that standing up for ourselves is always worth it in the end. We hope that by sharing our story, we can inspire others to do the same.
The next story is titled, the car dealerships and trying to upsell you. Took my car in for an oil and filter change. Oil and filter. That's it. Sat waiting in the Toyota lobby for this to get done. For some reason, it takes an hour and a half. Guy comes back with my key and proceeds to tell me that the air filter is dirty. Also tells me I need new brakes. We're in the lobby, and it's full of people sitting around and waiting for their cars also to be finished. I reply to the guy as loud and obnoxiously as I can, I change the air filter myself, which is located in the glove box at the back, and it was with a carbon filter, hence why it looks black. I had one set of brakes changed towards the tail end of 2020, with ceramic brakes that were rated for 100,000 miles of use, and the other set of brakes were just done this past summer after a trip to Colorado and squeaking that was occurring. That paperwork is also in the glove box if you would like me to dig it out. I cannot stand it when they try to upsell you every time. Also, I went in for an oil and filter change. Why are you looking at my brakes? The next story is titled, Mean High School Teacher Payback. So back when I was in high school, I had one teacher who was particularly mean. She was an older lady and she had it out for me for some reason. She was my first class of the day, and it always tainted my day. She was clearly going through menopause because her classroom was always like a freezer. I would be literally shaking. So, I started wearing my jacket to class to stay warm. She decided to implement a rule targeting at me, that no jackets could be worn in class because it was a fire hazard. It literally made no sense. So, one day I'm wearing my jacket in her class and she asks me to remove it. I comply, but I'm wearing a tank top underneath. This is against the dress code. When girls would break the dress code as punishment, the principal would make them wear their jackets. This is in the days before Gen X and students fighting sexist dress codes. She sent me straight to the principal, who asked me to then wear my jacket. The frustration in her face by outsmarting her was priceless. I'm still proud. The next story is titled, Did I Do That? A Little Tale of Side Revenge. This is part of a much bigger ongoing saga that should reach a conclusion soon, and may make an appearance in Pro Revenge. However, it's pretty satisfying on its own. Sorry I'm not more specific on some things, but future legal concerns. A short time ago, I was unjustly fired. A few days after, I wrote a response to their severance offer that included an entire account of the crap show that had taken place. I made sure to send it to all the CXO dogs, except for one charming fellow. Now, the very day they fired me, I had come into some interesting info about CF that I thought might be valuable. So, when I was countering their offer, I casually mentioned that XX amount shouldn't be a problem for the company since they could afford to pay a certain expense for CF at over thousands of dollars a month. To be honest, I was only guessing at the amount, but I had a good ballpark estimate. I was also betting on the fact that none of the other Sea Dogs knew about this arrangement. 3 days later, CF resigned from the company. I also heard that the rumors circulating about him and his sudden resignation included the word embezzlement. The next story is titled, Entitled Mother Attempts to Steal My Nintendo Switch and Thousands of Dollars Worth of Games, then tries to get me arrested for it. To preface this, I recently graduated from university and landed myself a pretty well-paying job working as an analyst for a major banking company. My first day is the week after next. A couple of weeks ago, I moved to a gated apartment complex in a wealthy suburb of DC, and I'm making use of their gym. On days that I work my upper body, I use a game called Fitness Boxing 2 with their in-gym punching bag. Now, my community regularly does apartment tours that include their facilities, so I will see one of the employees walking around with people, and early today, it was a woman with her 8 or 9-year-old son. This kid immediately takes an interest in the game I'm playing, and I offered to let him try it out, but his mom called him back, and I was nearly done anyway, so I put my Switch in its case and put it in the cubbies that people put their things in. Now, a few minutes later, I'm on one of the other pieces of equipment, and I see the kid walking out with his mom, carrying my Switch case. I immediately knew it was mine, because I have a very brightly colored one, but even then, I go to double check that my Switch was gone, and sure enough, it was. Now, everyone's been an annoying kid at some point, so I'm actually not particularly mad. I catch up to them and the tour guide and speak to the mom, telling her that her son walked out with my Switch. I figured she'd be embarrassed and have him give it back, treating it like a learning lesson or something, but instead, she takes it from him and says, "No, that's his game. You must be mistaken." I was bewildered. My initial reaction was, this isn't funny, because I could not fathom how somebody could be so quick to lie about something like this. Now, I look at the tour guide. I don't know her really, but we do see each other on a regular basis as I'm really trying to be consistent with going to the gym. She knows it's mine, tries to ask the woman if she's sure, and of course, this is when she gets angry and says that if I keep harassing her and her family, she'll call the police. On one hand, I'm like, good. Call them, because I can readily prove it's mine, and we'll get to that. On the other hand, and I want to preface this by saying that I believe in getting rid of all identity-based assumptions, but that is a belief, not a reality. The reality is that if you're a man, especially a black man like myself, who has gotten at least semi-muscular, when you're in a public argument with a hysterical white woman, you have to pick your words very, very carefully. So, of course, she calls the cops, yelling, saying a scary African American is harassing her and her son and trying to steal his game. And, like I said, wealthy suburb. So, a police officer is on the scene within minutes. I have to thank my lucky stars that the cop was smart enough to not immediately take sides and simply walked up to ask what was going on. So of course, I let her go first, with her once again saying that I've been following her and her son. We were literally in the apartment clubhouse lobby, and trying to grab his game. After the cops looked to me, I put on my calmest, most docile voice to say, "That is not her son's Switch. It is mine. He took it from the gym cubbies, and if you ever open the case and turn it on, I will prove that it's mine instantly because my Switch has a lock on it." And this is when the tour lady also says that she's pretty sure it's mine too. For those who don't know, you can jury-rig a lock code on the Switch using the Parental Controls app, so that you'd have to put in a PIN to play games or reset the Switch. It doesn't stop you from buying games though, unsurprisingly. The woman of course doesn't want to do this, saying I've caused her enough trouble, but luckily the cop wanted to hear me out. So this woman takes the Switch out of the case and turns it on. Firstly, I point to the profile at the top, which is of my me that looks exactly like me. This woman manages to turn on a dime and say that they just recently bought it from a friend that looks exactly like me. So I respond with, "Did that friend give you the parental controls password?" She says, "That's mine. I'm the parent. So turn it off." "I don't have to show anything to you." She immediately turns it off again and tries to put it away. But luckily, once again, this cop says that she has to show it if it really is hers. She turns it on and pauses because she has absolutely no idea how it works. So I kindly say, "You press the button at the top to prompt the PIN." Then I get my phone out. So she tries to put in a random combination, and of course, it doesn't work. And the interesting thing about the Switch parental controls is that if you put it in wrong, it sends a notification to the app. So within 30 seconds, I was showing the cop the "your PIN was entered incorrectly" pop-up. Finally, this woman starts apologizing, saying it was an honest mistake, and hands me back my Switch in the case, and has the audacity to ask the tour lady to continue the tour. The cop says that it would be best that she leaves, and says that he's going to escort her to the car. This is when she gets mad at the complex and says that she's never giving them her business, as she gets walked out the door. That's honestly what ticks me off. There's no happy ending. I have every game I've bought in the 4 years I've owned this Switch in this case, so between that and the Switch, stealing is well into the grand theft range. If the cop had immediately been against me, I would have been in jail by now. I would have lost my job that I haven't even started yet, and all the work I've put in for the past years to get here, for something that they would have quickly found out that they can't even use in the first damn place. And all she got was a nice stroll to her vehicle. I guess that's better than potentially having her and her crotch goblin as a neighbor. The next story is titled, "Dumped Me but stayed signed into your Netflix, did you?" So, my girlfriend dumped me a few years back after cheating, and I'm completely over it. Anyway, like I've said, I'm over it. So I thought that now was the best time to carry out my revenge. Because I'm over it. So I noticed that she left her Netflix logged in on my laptop, and Google has remembered the password. I have had my own since, but it always asks which account I'm going to log into and pre-populates her passwords, etc. So about last month, I just logged into it. I don't know why, but just was kind of half interested in what she'd been watching. I saw that she had been watching Breaking Bad and was on season 2 episode 3, and just logged out and didn't think much of it. Until 3 a.m. I woke up and had devised the most devious plan. I logged back into her account and just started letting it play right from where she had left off. Left it a couple of hours, then turned it off. So next time she logged in, it would have skipped a few episodes and the point as to where she was. I then started putting shows on I know she doesn't like, so it comes up on her recommended and really ducks up the algorithm. I just can't wait till she starts getting suggestions based on shows she doesn't like. It'd be a real shame if her and her new boyfriend fell out and started accusing the other of watching Breaking Bad when the other wasn't there, wouldn't it? Anyway, I'm over it, and not bitter anyway, so all good. Hope all goes well for her when she accuses her BF of watching Paw Patrol. The next story is titled, Karen Left Diet Books at a Little Library by a Playground. She caught me chucking them out and had a dummy spit about how it's knowledge and I shouldn't throw them away. She said she would throw me on the ground and said I looked like I had a mental problem. Kept calm and didn't argue with her, let her make a fool of herself in front of people as she jammed her stupid books back in there. As soon as her back was turned, I put them in the bin with the rest. In hindsight, perhaps I should have suggested she ask for a refund because clearly they didn't work. The last story is titled, My Neighbor Chose the Wrong One. We moved into a place a year ago. First-time buyers into a tenement building with a shared garden. The stairwell, or close as it is often termed, is self-factored, which gives the place a nice vibe and made it an appealing place to live. Upstairs neighbor was all over us when we arrived, checking in, sharing cakes and recipes, sitting in the garden with us and our dog, and generally things were lovely. We put on a few barbecues for our neighbors to help meet everyone and set us off to a good start. Precisely 1 year on, and upstairs neighbor now has an issue with the dog being in the garden as he has damaged some of her flowers. This is obviously not what we wanted, so straight away I suggest that I will happily spend my own money to supply timber and a handyman to build raised beds to prevent this happening again, and to make gardening easier for her. It'd be approximately $600 to do this. She complained of bending down and that she would be happier with raised beds previously. But not this day. Today she wants to moan and moan and moan and moan. I walked away. I saw her the next day, and she went off again when I repeated my offer. Who's going to dig out the plants? And what about the soil I put in there? Then, the law is on my side. The who what now? Moving on from there, I walk away and vow never to speak with her again, and to reduce our use of the garden we pay to share. Next, she builds spikes and puts in barbed wire. Obviously to deter the dog or hurt him if he tries to go near the plants again. Big mistake. Linked is my pettiest of revenge. You may have heard of it. It is called an annoyotron. Powered by an insanely small battery, it lets out random, irritating, and varying sounds that go off at varying times and over varying lengths of time. I just bought 2. One has been vacuum packed and put in her Windows box, which sits outside of her bedroom, and the other behind a tile around her front door. I hope that this becomes a lesson for her that hell hath no fury like a gay man mildly inconvenienced. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.